tell me a little bit about yourself and your family?
Um, I am married and raising a 14-year-old grandchild. And after we retired, we moved to DeLand. So we've been here about 6 years now.
How are you adjusting to retiring?
Retiring wasn't quite as big of an adjustment for me as it was for my husband because with raising a teenage grandchild, there are so many other things to do. But it's different when you don't get the paycheck on the 1st and the 15th. And I think that probably the socialization is the biggest thing with not being in an office environment anymore and you don't see folks every day. Sometimes it's really hard to stay up to date on some of the business side of banking, which is what I was in, and the trust and the legal side. So that's probably the biggest difference, is not the connection to people like I had when I worked.
What changes do you see in today's society?
Well, I can say just over the last 5 years, the biggest change that I've seen probably in my entire life is the social media side of it. That certain ages don't even use a phone anymore. They would text, FaceTime, Instagram, Twitter, tweet, Facebook, all of those. So I think the communication between the various age groups is getting more and more distant. Certainly some of the seniors even are doing more on the social media. So I think there's a much bigger divide between the folks who have embraced technology and I'd even say replaced some of the interpersonal skills. So I think that's going to make a big difference going forward too.
What do you do in your leisure time?
Leisure time. Well, I do still try to exercise so that there's that health issue. I enjoy playing bridge. And again, it's a very social game. So I think that that's probably a lot of the reason that I gravitate toward bridge, because you're physically going somewhere and you're physically interacting with folks. And then having the grandchild, there's the sports that she's involved in. So that keeps me interacting some with some younger parents as well as, enjoying the whole atmosphere with multi-generational folks.
Do you remember any fads from your youth?
Oh my. I guess probably starting with the mini skirts and how our parents hated them. And I try to remember whenever I hate the clothes that are going on now or the music that's going on, it's like, okay, we had the Beatles, we had the mini skirts, we had all of that rebellion, being able to go from no pants at school. I mean, girls weren't allowed to wear pants, and then all of a sudden, you were allowed to wear them. So that was very freeing. But but fads, very much the clothes are what I remember more than anything else. And I just as soon just skip the whole disco age and the big hair.
Do you keep in contact with anyone from your younger years?
Most of the people that I stay in contact with are people that I had worked with throughout my career. So, certainly some of the folks that I've known for the last 30 or 40 years. I think I find myself gravitating more toward family now because you've got the kids and you've got the grandkids and, my folks are still alive. So that's an entirely different environment that now I'm seeing the part where we're taking care of our parents as they age and they're moving closer so you can do more things with them. So that's kind of the next chapter that's unfolding, is the extra help that my folks need.
What are some of the important choices or decisions you made that you've learned from?
Probably the most important positive thing that I did in my career was saving money so that you would be able to retire. You would have enough money to be able to do the things that you needed to. So the sacrifice from 30 and 40 years ago of not spending every dime you had, living below your means. I don't care if they tell you you can afford a $1,500 house payment. You shouldn't have one more than $1,000. So I think being financially responsible was probably one of the things that I abided by and very much glad that I did.
What is your overall level of physical activity?
I do a lot of walking. I enjoy traveling, hiking, Zumba, swimming, aerobics. So that type. We'll get out and play volleyball with the grandchild. So I'd say from an activity level, it's better than average of the folks that are my age.
How has your diet changed over the years, or have you had to adjust your diet due to any health problems?
That's something I should do a better job of. Um, we eat earlier, so we're one of the early birds eating. And I think probably the biggest adjustment is not eating as late. But as far as health habits, I'm not real sure that they're not a little worse since I've retired because you're at home, you don't eat anything until noon, and then maybe you eat a meal and then you go a lot of hours or not so many hours. So I think probably the eating habits have gotten worse since I've retired instead of better.
How is raising your granddaughter different from when you were raised?
The music. There was nothing wrong with having the Beatles or having the Rolling Stones, and now I have to worry about the rap music and the foul language, and the language being very different to her than it is to me. The clothes, I can tell myself that a crop top isn't any worse than what my parents put up with halter tops and mini skirts, but the music is different. Um, I don't think kids help as much around the house anymore. I think before you could rely on teachers to provide some of the discipline, and now, of course, in the school system, you can't do that at all. And we used to have our neighbors that watched out for the kids, and they would fuss at the kids just as much as the parents would. So I think now raising a child falls much more on the individual parents and less on the whole community. So maybe Hillary had it right when she said that it takes a village to raise a child. I think that's probably a good philosophy that we've gotten away from.
Do you have any advice on marriage?
On marriage, um, make sure you really like the person because the lust will eventually go out pretty quickly. So I think you've got to have somebody that you respect, somebody that can challenge you to the way that you think, be able to have discussions on everything from the weather to childhood to politics to sports. So just finding those core things that you really enjoy doing. And something else, I'm a firm advocate. Spending time away from each other doing independent things is very positive for your marriage.
Do you have any dream vacations planned?
Um, I have a brochure over there as we speak. My dream vacation is being able to do Australia and New Zealand. And I'm hoping within the next couple years that I can do that because that's really important. And I am planning to go to London in September without my husband, with a girlfriend.